Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, whatever time of day it may be for you. Welcome to another thrilling episode of Zooster by Night. This evening we have the two oracles, both of Pack Firefly, who have had troubling dreams and visions plaguing their sleep over the last few days and are arranged to meet up. As well, Seth contacts Winston to let him know that wherever we're going to meet needs to be quiet, secluded, and he is going to need some assistance with a special project. So Winston has acquired a top floor suite at a hotel that has a hot tub in it, and he is waiting for Seth to arrive. On his way there, Seth, while he's at the mailbox, is going to find somebody who appears to be easily bribed and on their own. And he is going to proposition this individual to come and accompany him. He's going to be very blatant with the freakiness of what is going to go on. Obviously, he's not going to tell her exactly what his plans are, but he's going to make sure she knows that there's somebody else waiting for us and that they're going to compensate her quite a bit, but there's going to be some light bondage and a few other interesting things. And he manages with 3 successes to find an individual. Has to ask around for a little bit, but considering he's at Zycon, the bar, those are kind of the people that he's going to be able to find there. So he will have somebody in tow. So what is Winston doing while he is waiting for Seth?
Winston is at the hotel. Not the most expensive hotel in the city, but like a fairly decent 2-star one. And he's basically just waiting around, trying to gather his thoughts that have been particularly troubling of late because of the visions. He doesn't know. He's still new enough that he doesn't know what to do about them, and he doesn't really know how to interpret them either. That's one of the reasons that he has asked Seth to meet him there.
Okay, so I will get the number from you from our texting, and we'll uh, go to the room, knock on the door.
Enter.
I'll open the door, and I have a average-ish looking individual with me. Now that I mention it, I believe that while she looks female, it did sound like most of the people that inhabit Simon's bar are transsexuals. So she probably isn't actually, or at least wasn't born a woman, but she does appear to be a very well made up woman.
Mhm.
And uh, Seth actually looks very well dressed, very slick, probably the cleanest, nicest looking suit you've ever seen him in. And he looks, his appearance seems to be very almost crafted from what you know of him. He's immaculate almost with the way that he is presenting himself. Um, Come in, my dear. He gestures for the victim of the evening to come in with him.
And Winston will come out from the bathroom, and he will he will notice the two of them. He will first acknowledge Seth and say, "Welcome," and then look at her and say, "Ah, so
Would you
Winston."
would you mind pouring some drinks?
He nods and goes to get a bottle of halfway decent red wine, I guess, and procures three glasses.
Okay. So, uh, not going to spend the entire night role playing the conversations we're having,
No,
but 2, 4, 5, 6 successes on the small talk conversation Seth is having with our victim as the three of us are chatting, applying as much of this wine into her as we can from on top of whatever liqueurs she had already consumed. And as she gets a little drowsy, Seth redirects the conversation towards something a little bit more sensual and will lead the individual into the washroom and gestures you to accompany for us to start showering. And but when Seth mentions it to you, he uses the word cleansing, whereas he referred to showering to her.
and Winston
So
smiles and follows.
she's barely conscious. The warmth of the shower is probably helping the alcohol get through her system. So as we are cleaning and washing our victim, Seth will start the conversation with you. So, judging from your comments, I assume, brother, that you have been receiving similar visions as I.
He nods, yes, and they trouble me because I cannot make sense of them.
Yes, our Dark Father is definitely trying to press upon us the urgency of the events around us. After all, two big visions so close together when it's been so many weeks since our vision of the ants. This is truly tumultuous times that we are encountering. Some of the aspects it's very difficult not to take at face value when we know that there is a lot of symbolism in dreams and prophecy, and yet there seems to be so much things that could be very literally taken. Soldiers on a mountain, uh, 4 lab rats dying before the 5th one shows us the way. It's really it's, it's too difficult to just immediately sift through the literal crap and go to what it could be symbolically.
Yeah, what lies behind the obvious?
Well, exactly. Um, the one the other day I took to mean that the friends at the airport were preparing to make their move, that they were going to advance upon us. That
Winston
is
nods solemnly.
that is very much an obvious first standing and or assumption. Now, is that who it's really talking about? If it is, then it would make sense that they're marching to die because we know that we will win in the end. But
The
is it
cobweb
referring
is
to?
convoluted, priest, and
It
I have
is.
not yet been able to fully master its moods, he says with a
Yes.
particular intonation.
Do you know if Bishop Middlewaith has received any of these visions?
I do not. I had a meet. I spoke with him a few days ago, but I completely forgot to mention this. Our discussion were of other matters.
Okay. I think, well, he has called for meeting our pack, so at that point, I think it would be good to bring that up to find out how much is from the cobweb and how much is from our own more personal attachments to the future. Um, but
I think though that if both of us have gotten the same vision, then it would make sense that Bishop Simon has as well.
possibly, uh, he seems to be more of a projector than a receptor
Mhm.
in personality, so it'd be interesting to find out how much he has actually received. Another alternate to the one of the soldiers at the mount on the hill is the idea that it could be referring to some new player being added to the scene. I understand Alistair encountered some difficulties. Some very well trained mortals attacked him.
Yes, I was not there I was on my way when it happened, and by the time I arrived, the show was over. Winston says as he takes a look at their drunk victim and smiles a little before he looks at Seth again. But yes, it was a mess, and they knew what they were doing. So they were clearly someone's pawns, but whose is the question.
Well, did they die or did they escape?
I did not see. I did not see that many. I did not see any bodies as such. And he mentioned getting the license plate of a number. The license plate of a van.
Okay.
So I would assume that they escaped.
All right. Do you want to pass me the razor there? We need to shave all hair as well.
He does so.
So what we need to make sure of, so these individuals, they could be pawns of our friends at the airport. It's a possibility.
Mhm.
They could be hunters who have come to Zooster because of everything that's been going on. Or it's an odd coincidence that they happen to be there right when Alistair was attempting to get Chloe. It's a
I'm
possibility that these could be other rogue ghouls of Jacob Burns who are right now probably having a real difficult time functioning without the Tay.
Another possibility, Winston says, is that they are in league with Bratos, because it is also no coincidence that Winston
That's
had
not
that.
a that's not a possibility. If Bratos wanted Alistair dead, Chloe would have been delivering his head, not the other way around.
Winston thinks for a moment and then looks at Seth and says, Bratos strikes me as one who is more Camarilla than Sabat. So that convoluted way of doing things would be in his modus operandi.
And out of curiosity, what experience do you have in making such a comparison?
I have studied I have studied the difference between us and the ivory tower, sire. You know this.
Okay. So In what way do you see the bishop of the city behaving as an enemy of our cause?
The way he operates, Winston says, he moves in the shadows like uh, like an elder trying to play the game. He does not play the game he does not play the jihad for the sect. He does not play the jihad for the betterment of the sword of Cain. He plays the jihad to strengthen his position. Um, and he goes about achieving
Examples?
his aims in underhanded ways.
Uh, I will let you know, child, that underhanded ways is our bread and butter, no matter what sect you belong in. But examples, please.
His and then Winston begins to point out the way that Bratas has been treating them as of late, demanding that they do not. Uh, he demands that we stay away from a certain part of the city. Now I can understand
Um,
that if it was his haven, but he
Winston, Bratos has made no such demands of our pack.
has he not forbidden us access to North Schuster.
No, I travel there regularly.
Winston
So
looks at him for a moment.
who told you that you were not allowed to travel to the north end of the city?
Alistair.
Interesting. Um, he asks that we avoid any carnage or bringing undue attention to ourselves in his area. He wouldn't mind a heads up if we have to stop within Briarwood or near the Angel Sanctuary, but he's not made any kind of commandment that people are not allowed. He actually reinforced in conversation with both myself and Eveline earlier this evening that to make sure that we were clear, he was confused as to how we had gotten that impression.
Winston looks skeptical, but he doesn't say much. He merely this is news that turns everything around in his head. So he's not quite sure what to believe anymore.
Here, you're
Um,
closer. Can you get the left butt cheek? I can't quite reach from here, and I'll hand the razor over to him.
and Winston will, as delicately as if he was shaving a, yeah, he is. He will do the thing.
I know it's very fine and it's not really that long, but it's important that we have our volunteer here pure.
I don't want hair in my food.
Well, I don't think that will be required for you specifically. I'm needing your assistance, but let's discuss these visions. Keep an open mind. Be aware, Winston, everybody has an ulterior motive. Whether it's their personal motive, whether it's their secret alliances talking, their path to control their beast, everybody that talks to you, myself included, has an ulterior motive with every conversation. And not everybody is going to be 100% truthful, and some of us will word the truth in such a way that conclusions can be leapt without it leading back to us.
Winston listens and he merely nods. He's trying to like chew on Seth's version of what actually happened and trying to compare it to Alistair's version of it. Um,
So
hmm.
I am not trying to dispute Bishop Middlewaith or your Ductus on how events have been relayed to you. I am stating how my impression and experience has been. You will need to decide what the truth is for you. Be careful, we're in a precarious situation between two bishops who are not seeing eye to eye, and I am almost a decade, I'm 3/4 of a decade old. You and Alistair are mere months old. We are not as skilled at politics as the individuals that we are finding ourselves between.
How uh, how aged are the individuals in question? Anyway, I have never found out.
I've never asked specifically. The impressions I get from Bishop Middlewaith is that he's a few decades, possibly more. Um, Bratos, I'm not really sure, to be honest. Possibly the same length of time. Um, but at either rate, I know they are both older than probably most of the native Canaanites to the city. But
They have been playing the jihad. They have had decades of experience playing the jihad Winston size.
yes, and they know the rules. Quoting the Code of Milan to either of them in trying to defend our actions is almost funny that we are going to try to use their own rules to. They've probably already got a counter argument, so keep that in mind as well. The safest way to come out of this alive is to serve both to the best of our ability, with making sure we're serving the sect first. When it gets to personal issues between the two of them, that's when we have to try to find a way to extradite ourselves out of the path,
If we can, yeah.
if we can. We are assigned to Simon, so therefore he is the bishop of priority. I've been assigned as a liaison between Simon and Bratos, which I'm sure is going to make for interesting nights to come. Um,
Yeah.
and as such, I think, well, we'll see how much leeway I get from either of them in my dealings. But
I am worried though.
as of right now, Bishop Bratos has no ill will towards our pack. Any personal slights he has felt from individuals in our pack over the last month, the slate is wiped clean due to various commands by the Cardinal and actions done on the pack's behalf. Going
Winston looks skeptical at Seth.
going
Um,
forward, going forward, our actions we will be judged on. And
so
I
he
have
didn't go on.
sorry. No, you go on, Winston. You obviously have a question, and Seth will turn off the water.
Did he or did he not threaten to make furniture out of us as Chusabat because he felt displeased?
Has Simon not made threats to us? Has Simon
That is
not carved into our flesh just to get an answer to a question he's asked?
respectfully says there is a difference between easily healable damage of the kind that Simon did and flesh crafting us into things.
That is true. Have you been fleshcrafted?
Not yet, but
Me neither. So at this point, it is just a threat.
But what does it say about how? What does it say about someone that he's actually? Are you saying that he would not have gone through with it if something had not been able to please him again? Because what I'm worried about is that he is using his skills to think about himself before he thinks about the sect. What would the sect gain from loyal soldiers of Cain getting turned into chairs and furniture and rocks? And
What would the sect gain from you being turned to ash?
this is true.
So a short term being put in the penalty box as a footstool to teach a lesson versus permanent destruction. As inconvenient and annoying as it would be, I've been I've been tortured and buried for 6 months as punishment. To me, I don't really see the difference between that and being a rug. Either way, I'm not able to do anything.
And he will then point out the case of the guy whose name I cannot pronounce, but who has the rug. Um, point to that case and say, is anyone going to be expected to take Mr. Rock seriously again after, or if Bratos decides to unrug him?
If he becomes unrugged, I actually plan on offering him a membership into our pack.
Winston waits for a moment and then says,
I doubt he'll accept it, but I'm willing to offer it as a show of good faith. I'm sure he's going to bear a grudge, but I don't.
and uh, that whole question aside, Seth, is that not the role of the doctors, though? This is war. We are in a war at the moment, undeclared maybe, but still.
We are always at war. If that's how we dealt with such things, then membership in a pack, to become a member, you have to be initiated, and any initiation is rite, which places it under the priest's purview.
Winston smiles. Ah, but are you going to discuss it with Alistair in any case? Because if you just do it over his head, we might have some issues.
Uh, he's my lieutenant. I wouldn't be doing it over his head. I would inform him of it, just as I'm informing you.
Hmm. Winston nods
Anyhow,
and yeah.
do you want to help me tie Baldy up here to the bed?
Does the Pope wear a funny hat? Winston says and nods. Let's go.
Well, I would go for a lot more time being spent with our guest here this evening if I had gotten a little bit more mentorship, but I don't really want to risk strengthening my beast any more than it already has been strengthened. So as we're tying him up, what do you make of the rats in the maze?
The rats are. We are in the great game of the jihad. I think rats are an apt term for the rest of us. Um, and the antediluvians, Winston says the word with bile and hate in his voice, unfortunately make pretty good puppet masters. Uh,
Seth will lean over and crank up the temperature on the hot tub and then go back to detaining our guest. Yes, but it's very specific lab. As I said, it's hard to not get sidetracked by the obvious. But right now we have a contagion that has spread in the city and a vision about lab rats while Bishop Bratos is attempting to find a cure. At first I had thought maybe the first 4 attempts at a cure were going to fail, and it was the 5th one that would bring light. But unfortunately, it appears we've already passed that point. And far be it for me to disagree with the bishops outright on their methods, but I think Bishop Bratos is getting a little bit over his experience as a mortal doctor is perhaps clouding his current options as to what could be causing this. As it, in my mind, it's definitely supernatural. So I am attempting a more supernatural way of trying to deal with this, as well as providing some more physical possibilities that he can strike off his list.
Hmm. Yes, I am. I have not had enough experience with the cobweb yet to be able to fully discern the intricacies and delicacies of its producings.
Yeah.
That sounds reasonable.
So I am infected. That's one of the reasons why I had to take those samples from you and Alistair and the rest of the pack to Bratos, is because he's trying to compare infected vitae with regular vitae. I also provided him some old flesh samples as well as flesh that I've regrown since my injuries, so he can see if the vitae grown cells have been contaminated or not. Ghouls that have become infected with this contagion do not fare well, from what he told me anyway.
Do we know who else
And
is infected?
there's a fairly sizable group, thus the restriction on
Involvement.
Voldery for the time being.
Yeah.
Um, Dr. Bratos has the complete list, as I presume the Cardinal. Other than that, I have assumptions based on my interactions prior to and since my contagion, but a fair chunk of the city.
Winston
And
takes a deep breath and
as far as
sighs.
as far as I know, none of you have been exposed to my vitae since my contamination point, so you should not be at risk. But if you ever wake up sluggish and unable to feed, let me know right away, because that is the start. And right
Winston
now we
nods.
don't know the end. I'm wondering, four rats get beheaded. I wonder if there's 5 stages to this malady.
Hmm.
Because right now I've progressed to
So
a 2nd stage, and Seth starts taking his suit off. As he takes his clothes off, you notice they seem to lose a bit of snazziness as he takes them off and sets them down.
yeah,
They return back to looking like his regular old ratty clothing.
yeah.
Um, the metronome, the ticking, 12 ticks and then a pause, 12 ticks and then a pause in the background. What do you think of that? It's almost like
This
time. 12 is like hours.
the steady rhythm of it definitely means something. Um, the fact that uh, it was always 12 is significant. 12 has been an important number since time immemorial. Um, There were 12 disciples. There are 12 days of Christmas. There are 12, yeah, 12. Winston says this is significant in some sense, though precisely what is something I'm trying to make my mind figure out and not having much success at the moment. This is
Yeah.
one of the reasons I asked. This is one of the reasons that I have wanted to meet with you to talk about these things, because you have more experience in deciphering the cobweb than I do.
Um, as Seth gets into the hot tub, can you turn up the thermostat in the room, please, Winston? Crank it up to the max.
And Winston does so.
So, yeah, so I'm thinking this is a supernatural cause. I'm suspecting it's no coincidence that this infected us while we are getting stuck into um, while we are getting in the midst of this fight for our city. I would be surprised if our friends at the airport were not the cause. Now, there's got to
You
be a way to
you
break
think the
it.
ivory tower is behind this?
Yes.
It would make sense, I guess, and it would be within their possibilities.
There's rumors that there is members of House Goretrix, the anti-tribu of the Tremere, near our area, not within the city, but nearby, who may be able to shed some much needed light on a disease or curse that can spread through vitae sharing. Now, what I'm getting your help with tonight, by the way, while we're talking, is Dr. Bratos wanted to check to see if extreme temperatures could kill the disease. I had already thought about the idea of having a total purge of blood and then refilling it with consecrated blood as a way to see if that would help clear it up. Now I'm hoping that I'm not going to destroy myself, obviously. I'm hoping that I'm not going to accelerate the process,
Mm.
because that would not be good, but in itself, that could tell us something as well. So,
Winston will look at him and say, "I am, of course, not skilled in medicine, but I do remember that in order for something to be in order for heat to disinfect, it needs to be it needs to be the boiling point.
yeah.
Merely warm water will just exacerbate. If you drink, if a mortal like, drinks warm water, as far as I know, he could drink something he shouldn't be drinking, and bacteria and vira thrive in warm water. If if they should if they it would need to be boiling before it theoretically does them any harm, as far as I know.
Well, and that's why I've got this hot tub cranked to the point where it's going to be beyond. We already have a little bit of steam in the room, and you turning up the thermostat, it's going to become uncomfortable for you and our guest, but I'm going to submerge myself in this hot tub, which will be getting a lot hotter. We both know as mortals that excessive amount of time in a tub would be detrimental for mortal health. So I'm going to see as hot as I can get it. If this doesn't work, then we'll see whether we actually need to test your theory and go straight for boiling. Um, Actually, you could possibly pass the time by brewing hot pots of coffee and just pouring the water in. But I'm sure the coffee machine probably doesn't get it much hotter than what the hot tub is already getting. So at that, Seth will stand up and gesture towards the body on the bed next to the. I'm going to consecrate his blood so that when I frenzy, I have a target that will be very able to replenish.
If you plan on frenzying Seth, I'm not certain that I would like to be in anywhere near this place.
Sit on the other side of the room. Uh, Break the end table to have a steak if you must. Um, Dr. Bratos and I agreed that I should not be alone for this, and that's why it seemed fortuitous that you wanted to meet, because I needed to have somebody that I trusted to help me get through this if I needed assistance.
Winston
And
nods.
plus, this is an opportunity for you to be involved and see uh, Morite, because I know that that is something that you are interested in. And since I'm infected and you are not, somebody in the pack is going to have to look after the basics should something happen to me in the near future.
Winston nods solemnly.
So you'll
I and Winston will go over and actually do as you suggested and break off the leg and make a steak of it.
okay. And Seth starts gesturing to the body on the bed that's unconscious right now, but we'll see how long he stays unconscious. And starts to intone and mutter, and for the man that is clean is on a journey, his soul shall be cut off from his people. Let this sweet sacrifice be my cup. Let him be our holy bread. Let his blood be your blood. With this vessel, our holy communion, through you, dark Father, all chains are broken, all shackles shattered, purified with your blood. Shine black the sun, shine blood the moon, Gehenna will come soon. And he intones that 3 times, and before backing back down, the hot tub water is very hot now, and the room is probably feeling very uncomfortable from the temperature between the hot tub and the thermostat. And Seth will submerge himself under the water and try to hold himself down there as long as he can. At least I don't have to worry about drowning.
True.
So, hot temperatures, I'm going to say eventually, and you're going to have to show a little bit of patience, but
Yeah.
eventually, because it's going to be like, what is it, 20 minutes where they say that mortals, like humans, need to get out of a hot tub if you're sitting in it for 20 minutes. I got it cranked up at high temperature, so let's say 3/4 of an hour. I've been totally submerged in this hot tub that's getting very, very hot. The comfort levels are such, I am going to make a courage roll to maintain being submerged, and more time will pass. My blood pool um, is such. My blood pool is not good at all. Um, so yeah, I am in the tub. I'm keeping myself submerged. Uh, the water's going to start getting a little cloudy as I'm going to start sweating some blood over time. And I'll make another courage roll. But if I've lost a blood point, so my courage is okay. But now let's make a self-control roll with 3 blood left in my system. Excellent. So I'm keeping myself from frenzying.
Yay.
More time will pass. And I am staying submerged. More blood will sweat out of me. I am barely containing myself. At that point, I'm not going to be able to put off my... Oh, maybe I will have... I'm actually going to be able to stay under there for quite a while. So Seth is... The water's getting really murky and gross red at this point. Seth can feel the beast roiling within. He's having a really difficult time trying to maintain his focus to stay submerged and to boil himself. It's probably been about an hour and a half by now. As he feels his beast start to slip away, he's going to burn his other blood, pumping to stats so that he is totally devoid and has no blood left in his system. So after, let's say, about an hour and 45 minutes, maybe 2 hours, you sitting there waiting, all of a sudden, in a bloody, wet mess, Seth's body leaps out of the water and splashes and pounces down on the sacrifice on the bed. And he will feed. He will feed. So mortal normally
Drain
has
him, I guess,
10.
right?
He is drunk. So let's say he would have 8 on himself. So I can drain. Yeah, so I'm going to drain, and as I'm starting to drain, I'm in frenzy. I'm also wounded, thinking like a beast. That first blood point hits my system, it's going to sate me. But as I start to get a little bit sated, I will regrow my foot as I'm burning 5 blood to get healing done.
Mm.
And then 5, 16, so that gives me... And then I will have my body totally topped off. I'm going to drain the guy. Humanity of 2 is not going to kill me for doing it.
No.
Kind of wanted to not try to kill him, but I didn't not have a very much luck there. And then now let's see if I can pull out a frenzy.
Otherwise, the scene is gonna get awkward.
Otherwise, the scene is going to get PM storyteller.
Yeah.
I will
Okay.
not stop frenzying, but I didn't watch, so I mean, I am still hungry. And let's roll initiative and see what goes on here. I know what I'm going to do if I have to, so it's not going to be... So I got 9 for my initiative.
Wits and Dex. No, Dex and...
Yeah, wits and dex plus the
Okay.
dice roll.
So that's 5, so that's 10. No, 11.
11. So you go first. So Seth pulls his head off of the sacrifice, and you can see that his fangs are still bared, and he still has a wild look in his eyes.
Winston will recognize that look and decide, oh heck no, and decide that he is not going to wait for Seth to attack him. So he's going to try to stake him and that is as he will. I'll use one blood point to to strength, and I will. No, it would be a Dex brawl roll, right? Or Dex
It'd
melee.
be Dex melee. Dex
Yeah,
melee to try to stake.
yeah. So he will put a point in dexterity, and he will roll Dex melee. And just a second. Yeah, 2 successes.
Okay, and so then you can roll your damage.
And that's how many dice?
That'd be you got 2 successes to hit me.
Yeah.
Okay, so then that would be strength +1 +2. So it'd be strength +2.
Okay. That's 4. Right. Yeah. 1 success. Well, that didn't do
Okay,
much.
so then I will roll my soak, and I got 2 successes to soak.
Yeah.
All right. So you did no damage, but you have attacked me. I am going to spend my first point of willpower for the scene and will get successes to pull myself out of frenzy. It's not going to be immediate, but
No.
good. I think I'm going to calm down.
And if Winston can back off, then he will.
Part of the contagion makes the beast stronger. The hunger. Right now, I am. Oh shit! I forgot to roll my willpower roll. Right now, I am full of the blood of Cain from the ritual, and yet I still feel hungry. Like I still need to feed, but I can keep control. It would be harder for some. It would be harder for some because of the fact that I used passion. I used our blood gifts to quieten the emotions so that my beast was only affected like like you normally would for hunger, instead of the accelerated amount. I don't think the alcohol is enough of a relaxant, and plus the ritual would purify, consecrate the blood. So, thank you. I'm glad you were here, Winston. I
Winston nods.
am not complete with this. I'm going to try. I'll need you to come and let me know when we are getting close to dawn that we have to head back to the mailbox. And I'm going to try to stay under as long as I can to continue with the heat so that Dr. Bratos can't say that I didn't try.
Will you need more? Winston gestures to the body.
I don't. I will lose some, but I don't think there's enough night left for me to sweat through what I have fed.
Okay. Good.
We'll throw the body in the hot tub as we go to leave.
Yeah.
Better better stab him in the neck while you're at it.
Or
Right
cut his wrist
now,
to make it look like suicide.
yes, do that. Get the razor from the bathroom. I'll go back in the water. And Seth gets off and into the water.
Yeah.
And with my
Winston takes the
courage,
lead.
I am going to say that I am going to probably be able to keep myself there, scalding, boiling. I've pumped to stamina. I'm going to see if, like, yeah. So I don't even think, like, it's not like, unfortunately, it's not scalding, burning. I mean, it's going to be really close, but it's not going to be like dealing damage. But I
No.
just rolled stamina anyway just to see. So we will stay as late as possible, and then when you tell me that it's time that we need to go,
Mm.
um, then I will get out and we'll see how that goes. I'll go and get one of the plastic wrapped cups and put blood into the cup and then cover it up with the plastic and elastic band it. Well, that's fresh after the heat. Can we swing by Angel Sanctum and pass this on? At least get one of Dr. Bratos's servants to bring the cup to him.
We, since you said that we are allowed to go north, we certainly can. And
Okay.
before we do that, though, Winston says doesn't complete his sentence, but he takes the body of the victim and puts it in the hot tub. Then he takes the razor blade and puts it in the like uses the victim's own hand to hold it, and then slices open the victim's wrists on their left hand, holding the victim's hand, so the victim's fingerprints will be on the blade, and it will look like suicide.
Excellent. And then yeah, I'll make the call to his major domo or whatever title he gives the servant that deals with his bookings and just say that I have a delivery to drop off to Dr. Bratos. And I will, uh, as we're driving there, I'll grab a scrap piece. Well, we would have had a pen and notepad at the hotel room, so I'd use that. And I'm going to write down the notes as detailing what happened, what conditions was subjected to, and then we'll pass that on. And then on the way back to the mailbox, usually after a blood feast, I feel elated, like I have clarity of vision, strength of purpose. But all I get is now I have both visions echoing in my mind at the same time. He wants us to deal with this. He wants us to get this resolved. Uh, we need to find out, Winston. We need to find out what um, what potential symbolism there is in what we've seen, what we've heard, and hopefully something will occur that will jog our realization. I think the attack on Alistair is kind of nudging us in the right direction for the drums and the soldiers on the hill. the ants have toothpicks, that makes them more dangerous. But
Yeah,
right now,
I remember the ants. Winston says when I went to the not only from our meeting with the recently departed Mr. Burns, but also from when I went to the airport. I felt the same feeling of the ants. I do not remember if I have told you this. Um, so the ants in the visions are significant in some sense. How how late, how close to dawn are we, by the way?
well, judging with our humanity, there's probably a little bit of leeway. I would say we would probably need to be back at our haven an hour before sunrise, at the very least,
Yeah.
so that we don't pass
Um,
out on the highway.
that would be awkward. An awkward way to go.
Yeah.
So when they get back to the to the haven, Winston will use the last hour of his of no, actually the last 45 minutes because he wants to get to a place where he can sleep also. The last 50 minutes or so to study, and he will make an intelligence occult roll, I guess, to try to see if he has anything in his library that can cast some light on some of this. So that's 7 dice. I'm only using it to point to the STs and say, "Hey, look, Winston did research." Hmm.
Yes, you did research, so now you can Google the images from the dreams and you can see what kind of symbolism they have.
Yeah, but if it was as easy as Googling, like, of course it's Googling, but if it
Well, no,
was
I
that
just
easy,
I just mean you can like for like dream dictionaries and stuff like that to kind of get
oh
some
yeah,
ideas on what.
yeah, but dream dictionaries are bullshit because dream diction, yeah, they are because dreams are about the dreamer's subconscious.
But
And if I dream about
these
Napoleon,
dreams
it's different than if you dream about Napoleon.
these dreams aren't our subconscious talking though. So
No,
that's why I'm
they're the
saying that
cobwebs.
that's potential. Anyway, we can discuss the ins and outs off
Yeah.
screen. So you drop me off and then you do some research. Seth is going to get some sleep, and judging by my blood pool when I go to sleep, I'm sure I'm going to do some more blood sweating through the night because I'm not waking up the following day with that blood pool. So
Yeah. Oh fuck.
uh, we will see if this experiment has done anything, either good or bad, and we will follow up with you guys. I'm sure the next 24 hours will have lot more interesting events for our beloved fireflies. So thank you for joining, Seth and Winston, and have a good night. We will be looking out for you.
Yeah.